Good morning. There we go. Okay. They're getting so high tech around here, I don't even have to turn my own mic on. JC's doing it in the back. So, and she promised me that she would not leave it on while the songs were being sung. So you should be grateful for that. Anyhow, my name is Good Day and welcome to today's service. We're grateful that you're here with us today. My name is Dean Kurtz, and I'm the service coordinator for today at the All Souls Church, where our mission is to seek faith, practice love, and celebrate life. Whether you are joining us for the first time or you've been a member for a long time, you are welcome here. Whether you are joining us, whatever faith you have known or not known, or whatever your heritage, you are welcome here. Whatever questions you hold, whatever truths you seek, whatever sorrow you have known, whatever joy has filled your heart, whoever you are, and whomever you love, you are welcome here. And now for a few announcements. I call your attention to the notices in today's program, bottom of the order of the service, for the announcements that are listed there. Urge you to continue to read our weekly email blast for the dates and details of additional upcoming events and opportunities. And if you are not receiving our weekly emails, please sign up for them on the clipboard in the foyer before leaving. And I invite you to stay for conversation, coffee, and a circle discussion after today's service. Are there any other announcements? Alan.
How about this one? Okay. Some of us are slow learners. My name is Alan, and it's great to see all of you here. Immediately after the service, we'll have a brief meeting of the congregation, as previously announced. And so we'll have you just sit tight for a short time. And then after the meeting, we'll be able to go downstairs for the fellowship as usual. And also, I want to call your attention to the extra insert, and I take responsibility for the loss of trees for that because I had the wrong dates in the postcard which you got. So if you want to take this home and put it up instead of your postcard to remind you that next Sunday is when we have singing bowls. And I'm worried that somebody's going to come 2 weeks from now and have missed singing bowls, and then I'll be forever on the dark side. Yeah, I'll be forever ashamed. But anyway, I take responsibility for that. And so that's what I wanted to announce. Thank you.
Good morning, all. I'm Eric, and next Saturday morning is church cleanup time. I'm going to have a pickup here and a hedge trimmers. So if anyone wants to help rake up whatever cut off bushes or trimming them and stuff like that, that would be appreciated. Thank you.
Are there any other announcements? If not, Carol will play the prelude. time now for the chalice lighting. I gotta check to see which one it is here. 537. Small is our whole system compared with the infinitude of creation. I should have brought my reading glasses along with me. Let me see here. Brief as is our life compared with the cycles of time, we are so tethered to all by the beautiful dependencies of law, that not only the sparrow's fall is felt to the uttermost bound, but the vibrations set in motion by the words that we utter reach through all space, and the tremor is felt through all time. Maria Mitchell. I believe it's time for our first song, if I'm not mistaken. 298. Wake. Oh. Thank you. First reading is number 468. We need one another. I'll read the bold if you would respond with the italics. We need one another when we mourn and would be comforted. We need one another when we are in despair, in temptation, and need to be recalled to our best selves again. We need one another in the hour of success when we look for someone to share our triumphs. We need one another when we come to die and would have gentle hands prepare us for the journey. Well, Alan's threw me for another loop, you know. He's got song for all ages there again. I was afraid I was going to have to sing, but you know how that goes. And I don't know if I see any youngsters. Got one? Well, good. Come on up. I had a little trouble determining what would be an appropriate book. But then with today's topic being books, I figured almost any book would do. Come on up, sweetheart. Come on. Hi. How are you today? We're going to read this book. I know it's a little early for Halloween, but it's also about South Dakota. And it's a Halloween scare in South Dakota. Ooh, and you're living in South Dakota right now, so these things could happen here. You never know. Anyhow, let's get started here. Do you mind if, let me turn around here just a little bit if I might, so that I can read and show you the pictures at the same time? Is that okay? A Halloween scare in South Dakota. Prepare if you dare. Prepare if you dare for a night full of thrills. The time South Dakota gave everyone thrills. A tale filled with sights that are best left unseen. You ready? You sure? Yeah, that was my Halloween. You got a nice smile. The werewolves howled loudly. The moon shone so bright I stayed in my bedroom, the curtains drawn tight. My heart started pounding, my knees felt so weak, but being a brave kid, I just had to peek, see what was out there, making all that noise. What do I see? I pulled back the curtains, my mouth opened wide. An army of monsters had gathered outside. They staggered and stumbled and lurched down the streets with bags full of cookies and candy corn treats. I wonder if, were those really monsters, or do you think kids? Oh, they were, okay. Emerging from sewers and houses and stores came creatures and critters with ravenous roars. Then more came along from all over the state. They filled up the streets at a dizzying rate. There are a lot of them out there, isn't there? There's a skeleton, too. And a witch. Wow. From Brandon, I was going to say, this should be audience participation here. So if I mention the name of a place here in South Dakota, if you've been there or are from there, you could raise your hand. How about that? From Brandon, that's me. Yeah, I live there. From Sioux Falls, yeah, I see a lot of hands there. Watertown, yeah. All gathered together for one spooky night to seek out the living and give them a fright. I don't know, bats are always considered scary, aren't they? Yeah, they are. The thunder clapped loudly with terrible booms. The witches dodged lightning and clung to their brooms. The two-headed doggies. Two-headed dog? You ever seen one of those? You have? Okay, well, you're lucky. I've never seen one. And chasing their tails. And banshees let loose with their hideous wails. The vampires hung out on the street in their gangs and grinned just to show off their pearly white fangs. The mummies moaned loudly and swayed side to side while Frankenstein stomped about town with his bride. He just got married. In Keystone, hands, the treats had gone missing. Oh no, where are they? The locals demanded to know. Above, on Mount Rushmore, I bet I see a lot of hands on this one. Concealing big grins were four granite faces with with crumbs on their chins. They must have been eating something, huh? The Stanford lab scientists stayed together underground, conducting strange trials and fooling around. They made their own monster, half dog and half shark. See that? Shark head and a dog's body. If you've seen a two-headed dog, you might have seen one of these too. Anyhow, they made their own monster, half dog and half shark. I heard that its bite was much worse than its bark. What are these? Oh, so these things here? Yeah. The creepies were crawly, the crazies were crazed. The Aberdeen zombies had eyes that were glazed. The ogres from Yankton were ugly as sin, with big bulging noses and warts on their chin. From Yankton, huh? The ghouls danced around but were lacking in soul. The gargoyles could rock and the headless could roll. Although the whole spectacle seemed to spell doom, I foolishly thought I'd be safe in my room. But then something happened that made my heart thump. From somewhere below me, I heard a big thump. I froze for a moment, quiet as a mouse. Yes, I could hear noises from inside the house. Something was in the house. I put on my slippers and pulled on my robe. I shook like a leaf, but I didn't think it showed. Then slowly but surely I crept down the stairs, preparing myself for the biggest of scares. My hands trembled wildly. I opened the door. I still shudder now at the horrors I saw. The stereo spat out some hideous sounds as dozens of monsters jumped wildly around. The sight was horrific. It made my skin crawl. These monsters were having their Halloween ball. I love South Dakota, he says on his shirt. And right in the middle, one monster loomed tall, the hairiest, scariest monster of all. The one with the I love South Dakota on his shirt. He turned around and saw me, and I fell to my knees. I'm not very tasty, so don't eat me, please. He beamed ear to ear and broke free from the huddle, ran over and gave me a big monster cuddle. He wasn't a bad guy at all. He was kind of friendly, wasn't he? At last, we have found you, he said with a smile. From Spearfish to Brookings, we've looked for a while. We've came here to give you your wonderful prize. He held up a trophy in front of my eyes. It says, best costume. She won the best costume. Yeah. A prize for me, I replied with a grin. But what did I enter and how did I win? You've won first prize for the costume you're wearing. It even scares me. I'm tip-top at scaring. Doesn't look like she's wearing a costume, does it? Does she? Oh, it does. Okay. I thought she was just wearing her regular clothes. But this isn't a costume. I'm just dressed as me. Exactly. The scariest thing you can be. A small human child with a cute button nose. Yeah, I see one right now. Your teeth are so shiny, you've only 10 toes. I think so. No hair on your face and no horns on your head. The whites of your eyes are not glowing or red. A bone-chilling costume, a horrible sight. A worthy ensemble for Halloween night. He says, I love South Dakota. We partied together until the moon set, a Halloween night that I'll never forget. And next year I won't want to hide in my bed. The monsters won't scare me. I'll scare them instead. Will you do that for me? Scare those monsters next year? Next coming Halloween? Okay. Thank you for coming up. In this congregation, we found it helpful to share the ups and downs of our lives by the practice of taking a stone, warming it in our hand, expressing our thoughts of joy and or concern, and then placing the stone in the water so that the ripples of the water carry our joys and concerns out into the outer world. I'll begin by taking one stone here and placing it in here. I don't have really any concerns right now, but the joy I have, I guess, is that I'm going to go to Seattle on November 30th with my youngest son. We're flying out there to see the Vikings play the Seahawks. So I think they're relatively friendly out there, so I might be able to get by with wearing my Viking paraphernalia. But anyhow, I've now put in the first stone symbolizing all of our... I'm jumping ahead here. Now I'd invite you, any one of the members here that have joys and concerns of their own to express, please feel free to come forward.
this is a joy and also something with an announcement too. Um, uh, the announcement part is that Calvin Saling's gonna be at Helping Hand, and it'll be great. And he's doing magic tricks out there, and it'll be on Tuesday, September 16th, out there. And if somebody can come out there to help Jenny come out, and I will be happy to give you her phone number if need be, if you are interested in taking her with you, if you're planning on coming out. It would be really a good deal, and he's going to be performing magic tricks out there, and it'll be safe enough for kiddos and stuff, so, and big people too.
Howdy, I'm Scott. A couple of things going on in life. The first one is, after church is over, we're going to have a lunch, we're going to take a nap, and then we're going to spend a week in Newton Hills. We've got this really old van, motorhome for lack of a better phrase, and just see what it's like. It'll be a good pressure release. And then once we get back, I start my job at Avera. I worked hard to get at Avera, and I finally succeeded. But that does leave me with one small problem right now. This summer has given us lots of rains, and I have a red raspberry patch just full of ripe raspberries that I won't be home to pick. Someone might want to take advantage of this little situation. I'm in the book.
Hi, my name's Rebecca. I don't know if it's a joy or a concern, but our son is 18 today. And and I'm so happy. It's his birthday today, and he's turning 18. And it's such a joy to have, just looking back at his life and growing up. And he's such an amazing young man. But I woke up to a text from Sanford saying I no longer have access to his medical records. And I'm like, thanks a lot. But thanks for the reminder. But he is such a joy in our lives. And so that's what this stone is for, and just for his future and becoming an adult.
Last weekend, Janine and I enjoyed a trip to Menominee, Wisconsin, where we celebrated my youngest daughter's wedding. So Kaya and Carter are married now. Youngest granddaughter, did I say that right? And we got to see all my grandkids, and the youngest grandson is turning 8 today, so one for him. And my mother, bless her heart, is turning 94 today. So we're going to Beersford for dinner with her after everything.
Just a joy. I got to spend the afternoon over at Eric and Sherry's house. Had a nice meal, lots of great conversations, and just glad to call you two my friend.
I'm Ann Coonsey, and Scott and Janet are giving their big camper, uh, uh, test run, and that's a joy. And they're also invited to the uh, opening of national assisted living, um, free spaghetti dinner over at my assisted living place. So I'm delighted about that. And I think I know a certain person who may be crippled but loves raspberries, so we'll have to figure out how to get her some raspberries out of that. And so that's both a joy and a sorrow. They may prick her. This is for all those different joys.
My name is Hannah, and this is actually my first time being here. I'm a little nervous speaking, but thank you guys. I'm really excited from our journey here, so that's a little joy for today.
Good to have you. Not seeing any others. I'll put this final stone in, symbolizing all of our joys and concerns that are in our hearts but left unsaid. And now let us pause for a moment of silent reflection as we consider what we have just heard and what is in our hearts and our own minds. Thank you. Now it's time for our second song, number 113, Where is Our Holy Church? Please rise as you're able. Our second reading is number 490. And again, I will read the bold if you would follow with the italics. You do not have to be good. You only have to let the soft animal of your body love what it loves. Meanwhile, the world goes on. Meanwhile, the wild geese, high in the clean blue air, are heading home again. That was titled Wild Geese by Mary Oliver. Is our speaker here? Oh, okay. Well, let me introduce you while you're working your way up here. This is Bailey Abbott. She's going to be talking today about explaining through books. Thank you, Bailey.
Hello, hello. Oh, perfect. It works. Hello. All right. So, when I was in public school, I was homeschooled for a very long time. And so when I finally got into public school, in the 9th grade, we had a teacher that gave us this big lesson about how to give a speech, right? We had, this is how you plan it out. This is how you do it. This is how you, kind of move things around to make sure that it flows nicely, so that it goes like a storybook, so that you can, you've got to practice and time it out, do it in a mirror or do it, while you time yourself to make sure that you know what's going on. And I've done none of that. I'm completely relying on the power of ADHD to get me through this. I wrote down a few ideas in the last 15 minutes, so we're going to try our best, and if it's not all in order, whoops. Luckily, you guys love me anyway, so we'll get there. So see, I already get to cross off my first part, learning to give speeches. Check. Luckily, in my family, my grandmother was called Oma, and she would always introduce herself like that. She said, "I am the Oma," very dramatically, very loudly, to every single person we met. It did not matter if this was a casual run-in at a rest stop or if this was somebody who we knew from childhood. She would always reintroduce, "Yes, it's me, the Oma." And my Oma was a fantastic storyteller, which meant that I know a lot of tidbits about her life, and I have no idea the accuracy of any of them. At one point, I asked all my cousins, we have a little group chat, and I said, "Hey, what did Oma do, for a living?" And we all had different answers. The one thing that we could agree on is that she was definitely hired as a storyteller for the museum in Indianapolis. We don't know which one, but one of the museums of art in Indianapolis. Other jobs included ranger at a national park. We're pretty sure that one was true. Basket weaving, could go with the museum thing. There was a time where she worked at the zoo, which we're reasonably sure is true. She was in charge of holding the tranquilizer guns. Her favorite animals were gorillas, and she just kind of stared at them all day, just in case. But there were many other jobs that we could not verify. So even if I did not plan, luckily I grew up with my grandmother. So plenty of stories. She would tell us stories about Anansi, who is a deity from sort of East African folklore. Anansi is the god of stories, but also the god of mischief. There's a fantastic telling of him going to the sky god, who was originally in charge of everything. Sky god had all of the stories in a box, and Anansi said, can I have that? And the sky god said, "Finish my quests." And Anansi did, and he got all the stories, and he released them out into the world. And so we learned about that at a young age, as well as a story that I'm pretty sure my grandmother just made up, called The Man with the Magic Comb, which was about a man who got himself into ridiculous situations and then solved it with a magic comb. It's exactly as it sounds. It only makes sense if you're under the age of 6, but it works. See, and now I get to cross off Oma storytelling. Check. This means that I have a lot of, when I talk in regular life, I have a tendency to, she would refer to it as embellishments. We embellish our stories, Bailey. So I did actually write down some books that I get to talk to you guys about. I should have set a timer. That was the thing I was going to do. The power of ADHD. We'll get through it. Don't worry. The first book that I can recall, besides my grandmother telling me stories about Anansi and the man with the magic comb, who really was dealing with very low-stakes emergencies, if we're being real honest. The first book I can recall is The Toad on the Road, and I even looked it up, by Susan Shade. It's a tiny, tiny book because it's for children, and it's about the toad being a careful driving toad, the toad on the road. And it's basically just about being aware of your surroundings and being cautious. And this was a fantastic thing for Child Bailey, because there are some children out there who need to have a lot of very big guidance, if it makes any sense. Look both ways before you cross the street or you'll die. Don't look directly at the sun or you'll go blind, And that wasn't me. I was you tell me that and now I'm scared of the sun. I was very much a casual, you could just say, hey, things will probably be all right. Just don't look directly at it. So The Toad on the Road was a very nice parable for me to go and be like, oh, if I do the wrong thing, I'm not going to immediately fall over dead. Things will probably still be okay. Things will be all right. I'll get there. See, don't you love how I'm just, check? I'm getting there. I wanted to talk about learning how to read because, in case you hadn't guessed, this is just about me. I know it says explaining through books, and realistically, I should have brought, some books with me and sort of been like, hey, here's how I read them and how we do research on the background and had a little mini book club. But in reality, I was like, I'm going to have a speech about myself, and I don't know what I want to call it. And so I just told Alan, hey, what about Bailey Through Books? And he said, yeah, that sounds catchy. So here we are. And as such, so sorry. I learned how to read by my mother, who is a nurse, and she put down textbooks in front of us, and then eventually we figured it out. I'm sure there were other parts in there as well, just sort of sounding out the words and doing phonics and things like that. But as a result, I started off reading textbooks, and it just got worse from there. So as a result, once I got into high school, middle school, I was reading books that were probably not considered in my age range. All teenagers love to read Stephen King because we love to be terrified. We haven't realized, we haven't learned about taxes yet, so we have nothing else to be terrified about. So giant scary clowns and, ghosts in the library are really all we have. There's an ongoing tradition when you're in middle school is that your teacher has to assign you a terrifying book that you don't realize is terrifying until later on. So I even wrote down The Lottery by Shirley Jackson. Oh, see? There we go. Perfect. We've all been traumatized in the same way. I appreciate that. For those of you who have not read it, it's about 7 pages long. It's a very short story. And it is about a family going to go to the lottery, and everybody's ready to go and participate in the lottery, and then it turns out that when you win the lottery, you don't get a washing machine or $1 million. You get stoned. And that's because Shirley Jackson writes horror books. And so we had to read that in middle school. Great stuff. And there's always going to be several stories like that in middle school where you don't realize just how strange it was that your teacher made you read that until later. I appreciate you guys letting me go through with the power of ADHD. We're getting there. My favorite book is Rumo, The Miraculous Adventures of Rumo. And I learned about this book because I learned about the different styles of writing. When I was a child, I was very concerned about morals. Didn't know exactly what was okay and what wasn't. And so when I was at the library, I would meander through the grown-up section, where the Stephen King books were. And I wasn't sure if I was allowed to check out books. I didn't know if there was an age limit. My only experience with that was from Harry Potter, where they had a restricted section. And I was like, oh, what if this is the restricted section? What if I can't check out any of these books? What if I'll get in trouble? So I didn't. I would read the book at the library and put a little bookmark in there and then put it back where it went, and then every few days go back and continue reading where I was. And that's how I read the book Perfume, A Story of a Murderer, which I do not recommend, but is it is very good. But if you read it and you're like, why did Bailey recommend this? I'm telling you I didn't. You're reading it of your own free will. Okay, it's not, you don't get to be one of those people who's like, why would Bailey recommend this to me? What does she think of me? No, it's a good book. I'm not recommending it to you. One of the things that they do in that book is every time they introduce a character, they go through the entire life story of that character beyond what is relevant to the plot. So, for example, our main character goes and meets somebody on a bridge, and then you get to hear about how they interact. Our main character leaves, and then for another page, they have, and this man continued living on this bridge. He did this, and he did that, and he lived a happy life until the bridge collapsed, and you shouldn't build on bridges. And it would give his entire life story right then, and I realized I loved that style of writing because I'm nosy. I love to know what happens to the characters after they disappear from the main plot line. And so that is how I discovered that if you read books that were written old school usually in French originally, and then translated to English or German even, you will find that they go through these characters and they do all of the things. You'll notice it in Les Miserables. You'll notice it in Perfume, The Story of a Murderer. You'll notice it in Rumo, which was originally written in German. And I loved Rumo so much that I named my dog after him. Just constantly going through all of these characters. And if I had prepared the speech more, I would have gone through and this tells me about how much I love people and how much I love to know what people are doing, even when they're outside of my story, even when they're living their own lives, and even when they're going through their own things. But again, did not prepare, so just telling you the things as they come to me. Eventually, I learned about, more and more recently, people have started writing books about intersectionality, characters that have more than one trait. And I love that for me. There's a book called Little and Lion by Brandy Colbert. I even looked it up when I was sitting down so I could remember the author's name. And Little and Lion is about a biracial family that is brown, but also Jewish, and also dealing with all of the things that teenagers have to deal with. And I love it. It's young adult, so it's not meant for our audience. But it was one of the first exposures I had of a family that looked more like mine. And it was written in 2017. So from 1994 to 2017, I was unable to find books about brown Jewish folk. But knowing that this book exists and was able to talk about all of the different things about how you can be more than one thing at a time, that your identities are able to coexist with each other. Our main character is a brown girl. Of course, she's in a Jewish family. She's also learning about her sexuality. She's also learning about her brother who is experiencing manic episodes. And so it's like, oh, okay, there's more things going on. What is this genre? And it is a coming-of-age sort of genre. And it's delightful, and I do recommend that. Words are so funny. Words are so strange. I'm gonna wrap it up pretty soon because I feel like I've talked for a while. When Alan was asking me what kind of songs and readings I wanted today, I said, make them short so that I can just go up there and talk. I was gonna make a PowerPoint, I was gonna do all the things, and then yesterday my daughter, my 10-year-old, said, what if I have an allergic reaction and puke all night long? So you're seeing me not only with ADHD, but also only having gone to bed around 4:30 in the morning. So I promise next time if I'm allowed to give another speech, it'll be better. I promise I'll plan, I'll have things. I was gonna give out stickers and everything. But the last thing that I will talk about is writing, because that's a fun fact about me is that I write for a living. I write technical documentation, which is not necessarily the most exciting thing. When you open, a medicine bottle and you see all of the instructions and you ignore them, that's me. I started writing when I was as soon as I could tell stories, because that's the joy of having the Oma in your life, is that you tell stories. I wrote essentially what was a fanfic of The Land Before Time. Lots of dinosaurs going on a long adventure, going everywhere that they needed to go and saving the world. Soon I figured out how to put the pen to paper and continued writing. I wrote everything that I could think of. I wrote notes on the people that I learned about and who I knew. I took notes on all the books that I read. I took notes on what I had done that day, which might just seem like a journal, but I promise it was way more scientific, especially for a child. I have notebooks just full of things. And then when I got into public school, we had a specific curriculum that requested that we write two essays per subject per semester. So that's 16 papers a semester. And I did that for 5 years. And then I knew how to type. Then I got real good at typing. Once I was able to, I learned that you could write and sometimes people would pay you for it. I wrote English as a second language exams, and those were the first things that I got paid for because I had a reasonable control over the English language. I learned a few years later that I was drastically underpaid, but such is life. Eventually, I got into more and more writing, more and more communicating, the discovery of the internet as a source of work, fantastic. And so, yeah, I just wanted to kind of mention, it's silly to talk about who I am as a person without mentioning writing. And so I wanted to make sure that I touched on that before I disappeared. Words are funny. Sorry, I'm so tired. I have ADHD. I'll wrap it up so that we can pretend to get through the rest of service. I promise if you invite me back, I'll do better. Thank you.
Now it's time for the offering. Alan, would you remind me who's splitting the offering with this? Promising Futures. Let us read together the words to receive the offering. We give these gifts freely. We receive these gifts gratefully. We dedicate these gifts to the work of our congregation, serving human wholeness, caring for our planet, upholding religious freedom, welcoming the stranger, loving one another. Third song is number 318, We Would Be the One. Please stand if you're able. third reading is number 502, which I will read. Now is the accepted time, not tomorrow, not some more convenient season. It is today that our best work can be done, and not some future day or future year. It is today that we fit ourselves for the greater usefulness of tomorrow. Today is the seed time. Now are the hours of work, and tomorrow comes the harvest and the playtime. We'll extinguish the chalice now. As that's done, would you read along with me? The chalice is extinguished, but the light goes with us out into the world. Carol? Our president has a few words.
Morning, everyone. I loved that we had one of our readings today was we need one another, because during this several weeks where we have been going back and forth about the house and debating it, we have needed one another to come together and make a decision. Decision has been made. We have reached quorum, and so that we have reached 2/3 of our vote, and we are at 100% to sell the house. So I know this is not easy for everyone, and it hasn't certainly been easy for me, but I really appreciate everyone's thoughts and voices and words that they had to say about pro and con. So thank you, everyone, and I really look forward to a new season for the house and a new season really for us as well. So thank you.
In closing, just let me say thanks for everybody that had anything to do with this service, particularly you, Carol, for the beautiful music as usual. And a reminder that we'll meet downstairs for coffee, following which in about, I don't know, 11:10 or 11:15, something like that, we'll regather up here for our circle discussion. Thank you.